Hello and welcome to the Care Talk Business Podcast. My name is Bhavna Keane-Rao, Managing Director of BKR Consultancy and Advisor to the International Care Ethics Observatory. My guest today is a dear friend and one of the most respected individuals in the care sector, whose career started as a civil servant and who is currently the CEO of CareTech Foundation. Earlier this year, in recognition for his work in the charitable services, he was awarded an MBE. Please welcome Jonathan Freeman, CEO of CareTech Foundation. Hi, good afternoon, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be able to interview you and have a discussion about your background and again about what you've done thus far and then what you're planning to do further and get some insight into how the journey has happened. So before I get into the nitty-gritty, and I know you're the CEO of CareTech, but before we get into that, for people, I know you and I know your story and I was fascinated by it. Could we have a bit of a story about how you got to the care sector and how you found yourself in the position that you are now?
Sure, and Bhavna, lovely to see you again. Always lovely to
bless you.
Spend a bit of time with you. I guess like so many people, my journey into the care sector is an unusual one. I started my career as a civil servant, was a senior civil servant. Loved that. Had great time there, got a fantastic training in that, and so many things. Mm-hmm. And in my last role, the halcyon days of having a big pot of money to spend really quickly to address some really important issues. Basically, one of the projects we supported was this idea for a new mentoring charity for young Muslims and other minorities to try and provide them with professional role models. And this was an initiative that had been set up by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. And we funded them and they always did fantastically. And my career was going fine. I thought it was a good time to have a bit of time outside the civil service. So I had a secondment and spent a bit of time working with Mosaic and its host charity business in the community.
So before you left the civil service and then you set up the Muslim Foundation and some of the work that you did, you actually won a number of awards for that initiative as well, didn't you, while you were with the Prince of Wales Trust? Come on, tell us some more about that.
So I think we did, the team and I did a great job.
For sure, honest. But don't be modest.
We had a brilliant group of people around us championing this, and I'm going to say this, the personal inspiration and engagement of His Royal Highness, and that's who must take the credit. This was not just something that his name was on; he was actively involved, and incredibly supportive of myself personally. And Mosaic itself won a number of awards. We were recognised by the government as being sort of best of breed around mentoring young people in schools and prisons and what have you. Actually, I was particularly honoured to win the Muslim News Award for championing a Muslim cause. So,
but that's quite an accolade, though, Jonathan. And I know you are very humble and you're very modest, but that was an achievement, and what you did to support and nurture young people, it's an accolade.
Thank you. Done. And look, supporting young people is incredibly important, but actually supporting a group, particularly the young Muslims who face so many challenges, and it was really important to us. It was never just one group. We absolutely firmly believed in supporting all the young people, but with a particular focus on that group. But it's not like we would separate them out, because that was completely contrary to what we were trying to do. But the whole running through what Mosaic was about, celebrating the incredible role models within that community, and to be able to provide them with that vehicle. And as someone not from the faith, being recognised by that community as champion, did feel and was very, very special.
Absolutely, and I think that's the reason I was trying to tease it out. And I know you don't like talking about, and you're very shy about these things, but I just think that people listening need to get the feel of what the achievements were. So thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you.
Then you move from Mosaic onto your other things, and I know about it, but I just need you to tell people.
Sure. So look, we took Mosaic into the Prince's Trust, where it's thriving. Which is absolutely the right place, so it can help even more young people here and across the world. And I went off to do some new things, some new challenges. So I've done 10 years with Mosaic, which is more than enough, as any Prime Minister will tell you, or should tell you. One of my board members at Mosaic was Farouk Sheikh, someone who I had a huge amount of time for, and I'm sure
he's lovely. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, one of the founders, along with Haroon Sheikh, of CareTech PLC, the company.
Yeah.
And he asked me to pop in and said, we want to set up a charity around the social care sector. We've looked, and there just isn't anything there. Certainly there's no corporate foundation, so where you share that similar identity. And it was supposed to be a nice, I think, 8-week consultancy gig.
Yeah.
Go away, come back and tell us what we could do, how we could do it, how we could structure it, and what have you. Come back and report to the PLC board. I'd never reported to a PLC board before. It was quite interesting. So I did all my research, came in, set out what I thought they could do and how they could do it, and the PLC board turned around and said, fantastic, come and run it.
So what was your thought when they said that? Because that was a huge leap, wasn't it?
That was a massive leap. If I'm honest, I went, yeah, possibly. Let me have a think about it. But equally, we were trying something new. So I said, well, look, let's try it on an interim basis. Let's check it works for me, and let's check it works for you. Fairly quickly, we realised it was working, and I'm thrilled to be the CEO of the foundation. We're sort of 3.5 years into that journey. So that's how I came into social care, through one path.
Yeah.
The other path, and again, I think this is quite common within the sector, was a very personal path. I still remember my grandmother being in the Ohm, as my uncle would talk about, towards the end of her life, when she was getting elderly on her own. And then my father had a lot of ill health and spent just the last bit of his life in a care home.
Yeah.
But my real experience was with my mother when she was diagnosed with dementia. And we had to, it took a little while, as is so common, to get her diagnosed properly, but we were still managing it within the home. We would started to think about the fact that we need to find somewhere. And then
was that your first interaction into the personal journey on the care side?
Yeah, probably. Okay. I mean, obviously, as I said, through my father, but it was the first time where, my brother lives abroad. I'm the only other son, so it fell to me pretty much to do all of that negotiation and exploration. Yeah, and we'd started to think about the fact that, could Mum continue to live alone when she lived a little bit away from me? And that was fast forwarded by a phone call from the ambulance services, because Mum had been found a couple of miles from home, gone out to the shop. Which is a common
story for a number of people in Princeton. Yeah, absolutely.
And literally by the end of that day, she was in a care home in her village that was sort of earmarked already. And then had an interesting experience with that care home, not a particularly favourable one, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but do you think that somehow informed the way that you now, because you are quite a prominent figure in the care sector, does that somehow, that experience come about and make it more of a fuller experience, and actually that feeds into what your experience and what you do now?
Oh, absolutely. So you said I'm modest, not an adjective my wife used. Immodestly, I know how to run charities and organisations. But for me, the things I do, I've got to feel a passion and connection with. And so for me, being able to work in the social care sector, given the incredible support that they provided my mum, who sadly died earlier this year.
I'm sorry.
It happens, her dementia was so very, very far advanced. There was little quality of life there. COVID really didn't help, but it wasn't a COVID-related death. It was, just reached that time. But being able to connect what I was doing professionally with what I was observing, personally through Mum's Care Home, but equally I'm a trustee of the Field Lane Foundation, which provides supported living accommodation for young adults with learning disabilities. So being able to connect into that. So I guess when I did get into the sector, I jumped in with both feet. And
do you think that the experiences, and you talk about your passion, and I've seen that, I think you are right, absolutely 100%, that if you haven't got the passion, then I don't think that you would have done what you've done. So with that passion, with what you've done, and the way that you've managed to maneuver your time, because you are spread all over the place, you do lots and lots of things, and I think you do it with passion. So you mentioned that COVID has had an impact. So I want to ask twofold question, if I may. So I usually say it's the AC and the BC, before COVID and after COVID. So we had a number of challenges, and I know you and I spoke before COVID. So what do you think those challenges were? And then how has that changed after COVID?
I mean, people don't need me to rattle off all the challenges for the social care system that we know are there.
Yeah.
The chronic underfunding.
Yeah.
The fragmentation of the health and social care system. It isn't a system, we know that. The recruitment, retention, I'm sure we'll talk about that sort of stuff. I would also say, back to your BC point, the lack of a coherent voice. There's lots of individual voices that are very, very coherent and very persuasive and much more powerful advocates of the social care sector for me, but there's such a cacophony of voices.
I agree. So what can we do about that, though, Jonathan?
Well, and I'm going to, I will tell you now, when I was a civil servant and, ministers wanted to push through some challenges, if you had one or two very strong representative bodies in whichever sector you were working in, that knew their stuff, that were more expert than you could probably ever be in government, and that were powerful advocates for their sector and their causes, you had to really sit up and listen. On the contrary, if you had a multiplicity of different voices who spent quite a lot of time arguing with each other or vying to be the predominant voice, you could get on with stuff.
So what do we do? How do we change it?
Somehow, and this is absolutely no disrespect to the leaders we've got in the sector, all of them are hugely motivated. I've gone on a journey myself, sort of, politically and personally, about public, private, charity. Whether we like it or not, we've got a mixed economy in the social care system.
Absolutely.
I think people massively overstate the differences between that. I sit as seeing, the charity we run, at the bottom line it says operating surpluses, hopefully. And equally, when you're providers, when you're operators, you've got exactly the same set of numbers at the bottom, but you just call it profit, hopefully.
Yeah.
We all want to deliver the best possible service for the people in our care, the most efficient way in which we can. So actually part of this is just, accepting that we're in a mixed economy, but also we need,
No, please carry on.
We've got to somehow stop dividing ourselves up as a sector and overarch that. I'm not going to fix it. Caretech Foundation's not going to fix that. But as a personal plea is, come on, we need to stop this.
Absolutely. I mean, like you, I am very much about the sector. I love the sector we're involved in, so on and so forth. And it's frustrating when we are being divided, the voice is being divided. So I totally agree with you. We have got incredible leaders, but it's how do we bring them together, and how do we get this, because we do have an image problem in the sector. So how do we kind of like move away, and maybe that might address it? What do you think?
It's interesting because I was thinking about the image question. We do. Maybe I'm showing my age. As a younger man, it was the NHS was seen as, a poor provider, not looking after people, not caring about people, all of that, very, very negative at a global level. But anyone that went to their local hospital and their local GP to get a service went, oh my gosh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
And there was that complete split, a dichotomy between the sort of big public image and the personal view. And I think we're very much in the main in that space, in that, most of us who have had an interaction with the social care sector, either personally or through family or through friends, come away going, my goodness, these people are the most wonderful people, the things that care workers do for our loved ones that we can't because we're not skilled about, or we haven't got the time, or sometimes we just don't want to, sadly, is incredible.
Yeah.
But that doesn't connect to the bigger picture. So, a big bit for me is, as a sector, stop squabbling, but also start making sure we're telling that story. And as you know, and you're a big part of helping us get to there, having the Championing Social Care initiative where we bring people together in as big a tent as possible. We don't want to represent anyone. That's not our job. We don't want to lobby or anything like that. We just want to shine a light on the incredible stuff. So a big bit of it for me is just that. But then there's some structural things as well we've got to sort out.
How do we change the media perception of the sector then? Because I think even now, we had clap for carers and all of that. And we were, the care badge, it's disappeared almost again. How do we address or readdress that?
It's got to be a continuous, innovative, relentless focus on positive stuff, the stuff that you and I see every day when we go into care homes or see other social care providers, and just amplifying those messages. Lots and lots of people have started doing, there's lots of campaigns, and that's great, but let's just really start telling that story. Invest some time in helping journalists to see that stuff. Equally, we know that there is not always great provision. All of us want to improve that. We know that sometimes there are huge challenges that it's almost inevitable. Not every hospital is great, not every GP is great, not every school is great. There will always be. But if as a sector we're open about those challenges and are helping each other and not making too many excuses for each other when that stuff happens.
Yeah, and you know, what do you think? Do you think there is a role for the regulator in all this? Because we've talked about the government, we've talked about the sector, and we can't self-regulate because that just doesn't happen. And from my background as CQC, I know that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But what's the role of the regulator in all this?
So the regulator, yeah, it's got a huge role, clearly. Trying to get that balance right between, yes, protecting the public on our behalf,
Yeah,
but doing the best way of protection is not by, yeah, and again, the former civil servant in me, this is not, you know, tick box, this is not more bureaucracy, this is not more forms, this is about becoming, permissive, this is about encouraging change, investing in leadership, yeah, and getting that risk balance right. Yeah.
okay, you talk about the leadership, and I know that you've championed and you've discussed the challenges in recruitment through that as well. So what do you think are the challenges to recruitment, if I may ask, and then we can perhaps discuss how we can address those as well, Jonathan?
Sure. I mean, I'm not going to repeat the stats that we all know. 120,000, huge churn in the sector. I saw a stat recently about how many leave within 1 year. I mean, it's just, we've got a revolving door of people coming in and out of the sector. One of the big issues, which I don't think we've really got to grips with yet, and I think we, the sector, and frankly the government has got to get to grips with, is talent.
Yeah.
Management. Yes, we've got to make sure we've got care workers at the front line, and there's loads of money being spent by government and others on recruitment campaigns and the like, but actually I'm not convinced that as a sector we've really thought about how do we attract the brightest and the best graduates or career changers and invest in them and develop a leadership pathway for them.
Yeah.
And I think we can learn from a lot of other sectors where they have transformed that. If there are incredible initiatives like Teach First and its parallels in other sectors that have absolutely transformed that. So I think that for me is an absolutely key element of it. We need to, and it's something I know that you've championed personally, but I think absolutely we need to look at diversity much more seriously than we have done. And I think for me, a big bit about the recruitment is much more, it's about the retention, and that's about hiring wisely in the first place. Yeah, we don't want someone who's thinking, do I want to do this or work in Tesco's. There's someone very, very wise that I know works. He said, we're fundamentally different. We're about caring for other human beings. Yeah, absolutely. You need special people to do that.
But do you not think it's, again, the whole, so part of my bit is I'm advisor to the National Care Ethics Observatory, and we did a little project on, if you say to somebody that you work in a hospice, they get treated differently to if you say you work in a care sector or you're a carer. But the job that they do fundamentally is similar. So it's that image. What about, do you think it's to do with, because predominantly the care sector is female-led. Do you think that's something to do with it? The retention, the professionalizing of the sector, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a really big issue that we need to invest in professional standards. A professionalization that you're signing up for a profession. There's a sort of membership standards around that we will,
That's got to be the way forward, you know, especially, I mean, we've got so many young people actually leaving the sector. It's how do we, A, attract them, but then keep them, the retention bit. And, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you asked me about what the challenges before and after COVID. Yeah. There are obviously a lot of stuff we've learned. It's been a horrendously difficult time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost so many people that we look after, and indeed, doing the looking after and doing that caring. But it's just thrown into sharp relief these challenges and just made more pressing the need to address them. Yeah. At the same time, if you're thinking about post-COVID, we are one of the few sectors that has jobs.
Indeed.
Yeah, we have a moral responsibility, I would say, to our young people and to those who've lost their jobs to get out there and recruit them. I mean, it's ridiculous. How on earth can we be a sector with 120,000 vacancies when we're about to see clearly record unemployment? Yeah. And I get quite cross when I hear providers, and I'm afraid I have heard them, not anyone I'm connected with, thankfully, saying, well, we don't really need to worry about recruitment anymore, do we? Because everyone's looking for a job. Yeah. And so we can dial down our investment in our people. No, absolutely not. The point is we've got young people looking at pretty bleak futures.
Absolutely. And we
want to give them careers. We want to invest in them, not jobs, careers. And I think that's where we've got to start changing that. If you said 30 years ago I worked for the NHS, I'm not sure you'd get the same as you would now in terms of someone saying good on you. Back to your point about image. If someone says, I work in care, someone say that's amazing. Someone rather too close to me recently, I know, is looking for a job and said, I've been looking for a job, but there's only care jobs. Yeah. And it was, really? And that's a shining shame, because you meet some of the people working in the sector and they love it. Absolutely fantastic. And I was rather harsh in my response to that individual.
I'm sure you were, I can imagine.
Not a family member, promise you that.
I don't. I mean, it is about trying to encourage people, but actually getting some of the leaders that we spoke about actually stepping up to the plate as well now, isn't it? This is the time we can work together as a sector, as a unified sector, because if we're divided, that's where the problems.
Yeah, and not just in terms of representing the sector, but actually working on these challenges together. So, I want, and the foundation wants, to really help invest in, developing, a talent pipeline and a talent recruitment pipeline for the sector.
Yeah.
We can only do that if actually, local authority providers, charity providers, private sector providers go, okay, we all need those people. Yeah. If we don't start thinking as a system, we won't be a system. And in any system, if I recruit someone and move them on so that they can go and do a more senior job with you, that's great.
Absolutely.
Because it'll happen in reverse as well. And if we start trying to think that we are a system, that we're all interlinked, and that there are some stuff that we need to do better together, then we might. If we wait for government, they'll just do it to us badly. We need to do it ourselves.
And that's where the leadership comes in, and leadership at all the levels. So I totally agree with you. Changing it slightly, Jonathan, can we talk about volunteers, how they make a huge contribution to social care?
Invaluable. The fact that people do volunteer in the huge numbers that they do is a huge bit of what the sector's about, and something we should cherish and recognise. That contribution is really important.
How do we do that?
Well, in any.
I know it's not panacea, but I mean, would like to know your thoughts.
Well, I guess any any charity, for example, that counts on volunteers will have a volunteer management strategy in place.
Yeah.
They will have resource to manage those people, reflecting it's not just a free good. Volunteers add a huge amount of value, and many organisations depend on them, so you should be treating them like you would do as if you're paying them, but also go out the way to recognise them, to say thank you to them. But I always found, so when I was at Mosaic and we had thousands of volunteer mentors, probably the single most powerful things we did, two things. Number one, we just had every year a thank you event, and we just recognised the stories. But actually the most important of those, and the second thing, was helping them to see the value of the contribution they had made.
Absolutely.
So even simple things like just saying, okay, that group of mentors you've been working with, here's what their teachers have told us about their results after a year's worth of support compared to the others. And that was the most rewarding thing. So remembering to tell the volunteers the impact they've had, that will keep them there.
Isn't that, it's so simple and yet so powerful, and I think that's the frustration for me, and I know you as well, that these are things that are so easily to embed and put in place, and yet people struggle with it.
They are very simple, but equally we're not. I'll be honest, I've been struck coming into the sector relatively recently, things that other sectors have been doing for quite a long time. Are just seen as really like, oh, what, employee volunteering, which other sectors recognised a while back is probably the most cost-effective form of training and development.
Absolutely.
It's just not something that we've got, and there's lots of examples of that where we need to learn from other sectors. So again, yes, we need to start thinking as a system, but we need to be bringing in those ideas from outside.
Can we now move on to some of the numbers of partnering agencies that you've actually associated with regards to bringing younger people into the sector? Could you talk a bit more about that? So, the Prince's Trust, etc. Could you tell us a bit more?
So look, the CareTech Foundation at heart is, a grant-making foundation. We give grants out. We do some stuff ourselves, but primarily it's about working with partners. And what we decided really early on was, we weren't going to call it a grants fund. It was about a partnership fund. So, and that we were going to try and invest in a small number of really high impact projects that would shift the dial on key issues, and that we were going to stick with them, not just, here's a bunch of money for a year, go away, but we'd work with you for 3 years at least. We would bring to bear the expertise of our parent company so that they can contribute in kind as well through their expertise. And one of our key focus areas is around skills development for the sector, and particularly young people.
Absolutely.
So we just recently announced with the first, I think, social care, well, I know we are, first social care organisation to put some really significant funding into the Prince's Trust's health and social care programme. That programme is designed. They've got, the nice bit of this is, every pound that we put in unlocks £3.5 of government funding.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
It's a huge no-brainer. That's trying to bring 10,000 young people into jobs in the health and social care setting. That's a huge number. The Prince's Trust can get at the young people who don't normally have that opportunity. They can provide the wraparound support to help encourage and support them in it. It will need much more, many more providers to be saying, okay, we're going to start employing those people and thinking about how they can look after it. And hiring managers have got to start thinking differently about who they're taking on.
How do we push that then? How do you've started something, there's a drop in the ocean, and I get that. But how do we make that into a bit of a wave?
Well, first thing is we need more care companies to say, yeah, we want to be part of this. We need to show, we're lucky, we've CareTech PLC, that our parent company, have said, absolutely, we're supporting this, and we're going to work with those young people and find them jobs. But our money is to help get those kids into jobs in which with other providers as a foundation. But I do want us to be able to tell the stories of those young people and to show others that actually, if you start thinking differently about who you are hiring, it will absolutely, pay dividends. Part of it's just, getting people just don't know that they can do this stuff sometimes, and they worry about it. And you're like, well, hang on a second, it's really not terribly difficult. Just think differently. Don't
but we were
add
young
another
ones.
zero to your agency bill.
Absolutely.
Come and give it to us.
But we were young ones. We had these dilemmas. We had these, fears, and we were nervous. And it's just going back to that. And what you're doing and saying is that you're bringing young people together, and you're saying, actually, let's nurture you, let's mentor you, let's get you back on track, because it benefits the whole of the sector.
And wider society, absolutely. It addresses core issues to what we're about. It addresses a wider society issue. But it just needs people just to be able to take a bit more of a wider perspective about who they think they want in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I can talk to you for hours, as you know, and I enjoy that. But for the last question, so it's a bit of a overall, what do you think the future holds for the social sector, considering what we've gone through the whole year, all of the dilemmas, everything else? What do you think the future holds for us? Big question.
It's a huge question. We are very far from being out of the woods. We've got COVID, and its legacy will be with us for decades. We know that, not least financially. This week we had the budget, not a single mention of social care.
Shocking, wasn't it?
And it's tricky because it's one of those horrible political issues, and again, back to civil service, it's quite firmly in the too difficult tray. Politicians that have been brave enough to speak about it beyond generalities, being the head above the parapet, have had them pretty firmly shot off. So if we're waiting for government, so where do I think the future is? If we leave it to government, we're just going to carry on as we are. Bluntly. And it will get worse before it gets better. We need to keep on forcing the pace of change. We've got to look to ourselves as leaders within the sector and say, actually, we can do a lot more, and we've got to be more active and welcoming of change. I really do hope the one thing that will help us to achieve that is we have seen wider society now see the value of social care and understand the scale of social care and the incredible things that care workers and the sector is doing. We need to make sure we keep on to that groundswell of goodwill and harness it by really getting out there and making a difference.
We've never been in this position before where we've had that spotlight, that we've had the public behind us. So like you said, this is the time to strike and actually make a difference. But it's not about one voice or two, it's about the collective coming together.
So just one example, it's been quite interesting. So championing social care, the cross-sector initiative, we're really honoured that Care Home Open Day, now week, is one of our programmes. Brilliant work done by Care England and NCF and others to get it to this stage, and we're happy to take it on. There is an understandable amount of nervousness about care home open. We can completely get it, and nothing we want to do, you know, can jeopardise the safety of individuals in care, and we absolutely understand that. But I do think that initiative and that programme is a really good example of actually, if we want, we can just retrench and hide ourselves away. I don't believe there's a single care home or other form of social care provision that has chosen to close its doors to family, friends, the public.
Absolutely.
And there's a real yearning to be back in those communities, an active part of communities. Of course, we're on the journey, we need to tread very carefully, but the answer is not, let's just pretend we're not here and close the doors. Let us, metaphorically perhaps this year, open our doors and remember we're part of those communities. So for me, that's about the leadership that we need to be showing out. It's a good example.
I think you are so right. And you know, Jonathan, every time I speak with you, I get more passionate about the sector, because I do get where you're coming from, and it always is an honour and a pleasure speaking with you. So thank you for sharing your thoughts with me.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Bhavna.
Pleasure. Take care.